Good morning, students. Welcome back to our software engineering class. In the last class, we have been discussing about planning for a software project. Before that, we were discussing about software architecture. This software architecture is an intermediate step between requirement analysis and the actual design. Okay. Based on the architecture description document, we proceed with design and at least uh, two ways of designing are executed, namely function-oriented design and object-oriented design. That's what we are going to discuss in this unit. Okay. Some background about design. See, the design activity begins with the requirements document for the software to be developed. Based on that SRS document only, we begin the design activity. So from the SRS document, the architecture is designed. Okay, software architecture. Okay. During the design, we further refine the architecture. Okay. So that's why I said that this architecture is an intermediate step between actual design and the requirement analysis. So what we do during the design? During design, we determine what modules should be included in the system and which have to be developed. Okay, so various modules. In fact, we can say that this design activity is more towards module-oriented design that we have discussed in the software architecture. Okay, the design of a system is essentially a blueprint or a plan for the solution of the system. Okay, that you should know. Here we consider a system to be a set of modules with clearly defined behavior. Each module have a clear defined behavior and they interact with each other in a defined manner to produce some behavior or services for each environment. So a module of a system can be considered a system with its own sub-modules. Okay. Well, the design process for a software system has at least two levels. In the first level, the focus is on deciding which modules are needed for the system, the specification of these modules, and how the modules should be interconnected. These things are considered in the first level, and this first level is called as top level design or system design. Top level design or system design. In the second level, the internal design of the modules or how the specification of the modules can be satisfied is decided. Okay. And this design level is called as detailed design or logic design. Okay. So this detailed design essentially expand the system design to contain a more detailed description of the processing logic and data structures so that the design is sufficiently complete for coding. Okay. Now you should know what I mean by a design methodology. A design methodology is a systematic approach to create a design by applying a set of techniques and guidelines. So, systematic way of approaching the design. Okay. Most design methodologies focus on the system design and do not reduce the design activity to a sequence of steps that can be blindly followed by the designer. So here we go for a structured design methodology based, otherwise a function oriented design. Function oriented design. Before discussing more and more about the function oriented design, I want you to know something about design principles. Okay, the design of a system is correct if a system built precisely according to the designs satisfies, sorry, the design of a system is correct if a system built precisely according to the design satisfies the requirements of that system. That you should bear it in mind. Okay, the goal during the design phase is to produce correct designs. However, this correctness is not the only criterion during the design phase. Uh, the goal of design phase is not simply produce a design for the system. Instead, the goal is to find the best possible design within the limitations imposed by the requirements and the physical and the social environment. So, which is the best design possible? So, several designs are available, but among that, which design is possible is the goal of this design activity. So, when do you say that particular design is a best design? When it satisfies certain criteria. Okay, yeah, design should clearly be verifiable, complete, and traceable. So, to claim it as a best design, and it should meet out the most important properties, namely efficiency and simplicity. Okay, it should be simple as well as efficient. The efficiency of any system is concerned with the proper use of scarce resources by the system. The need for efficiency arises due to cost considerations, uh, especially. Okay, if some resources are scarce and expensive, uh, the resources should be used efficiently. For example, in computer systems, the resources that are mostly considered are for efficiency are the processor, time, and memory. An efficient system is one that consumes less processor time and requires less memory. That only that is an efficient computer system. In earlier days, the uh, cost of the CPU and memory was very high. That's why they were considered as a parameters to for efficiency. But nowadays, the cost of the software is higher than the hardware. So no longer the processing time, the processor time or memory are the main criteria for a efficiency of a system. Okay. So then the second property is simplicity. Simplicity is the important quality criteria for a software system. Okay. We have already seen that the maintenance of software is usually quite expensive, and maintainability of a software is one of the goals we have established in the first unit itself. Okay. The design of a system is one of the most important factors affecting the maintainability of a system. So during the maintenance, the first step a maintainer has to undertake is to understand the system to be maintained. Then only he can perform any maintenance activity. A simple and understandable design will go a long way in making the job of a maintainer easy. So a simple design will help in maintenance. It should be noted that the principles that can be used in the design are the same as the principles used in the problem analysis. Okay, here we are going to make a comparison between the problem analysis design and the design of the system. Okay, the methods are similar because in both analysis and design we essentially consider the construct modules. Okay, but there are some fundamental differences between this problem analysis and design. In the problem analysis, we construct a model for the problem domain, whereas in the design, we construct a model for the solution domain. Also, in problem analysis, the analyst has limited degree of freedom in selecting the models as the problem is given, and the modeling has to represent it. Whereas in design, the designer has a great deal of freedom in deciding the models as the system the designer is modeling does not exist for the future one that is he is designing. Okay. The designer is creating a model for the system that will be the basis of the building the system. Okay. So in design, the system depends on the model, while in problem analysis, the model depends on the system. That we can say. The basic aim of modeling in problem analysis is to understand, uh, while the basic aim of modeling is to design, the basic aim of modeling in design is to optimize. So in design principles, we consider two principles, at least two principles, yeah, great. We give importance for two principles, namely partitioning the problem, then abstraction of the problem, and modularity, and top-down approach. Top-down approach. We shall see what is this partitioning of the problem as a design principle. When solving a small problem, the entire problem can be tackled at once. Okay. But the complexity of larger problems and the limitations of human minds do not allow large problems to be treated as a single whole. Okay, it cannot be attempted straight away. So, for solving larger problems, the basic principle is to divide the problem and conquer the problem. So, clearly, dividing in such a manner that all the divisions have to be conquered together is not the main aim. The aim is to divide the problem into smaller problems and conquer each problem separately and find the solution for the given original problem. Okay. The different sub problems, they have to cooperate and communicate to solve the given original problem. So the division should be like that. And also you should know that one or two most important quality criteria for your software design is simplicity and understandability. The maintenance is minimized if each part of the system is easily related to the application and each piece can be modified separately. Each subproblem can be modified separately. If a subproblem can be modified separately, we call it independent of the other subproblems. Okay. For example, if module A is independent of module B, then we can modify A without introducing any unanticipated side effects in module B. The independence of modules of one system is not possible, but the design process should support as much independence as possible between the modules. Dependence between modules in a software system is one of the reasons for high maintenance cost. Okay. So this problem partitioning lead to hierarchies in the design. That is, the design produced by using problem partition can be represented as a hierarchy of components. The relationship between the elements in this hierarchy can vary depending on the methods used. Okay. The second design principle is hierarchy abstraction. Okay. The first one is problem partitioning. The second one is abstraction. So what do you mean by this abstraction? An abstraction of a component describes the external behavior of that component without bothering with the internal details that produce the behavior. Okay, it bothers only about the external behavior of the module or component. For software systems, there are two abstraction mechanisms used, namely functional abstraction and data abstraction. Functional abstraction and data abstraction. In functional abstraction, a module is specified by the function it performs. For example, a module to compute the log value of a number can be abstractly represented by the function log. Similarly, a module to sort an input array of numbers can be represented by the specification of sorting. Functional abstraction is the basis of partitioning in function-oriented approaches. That means when the problem is being partitioned, the overall transformation function for the system is partitioned into smaller functions that comprise the system function. Then the next one is data abstraction for the abstraction. Okay. Any entity in the real world provides some services to the environment to which it belongs. Often, the entities provide some fixed predefined services. The case of data entities is similar to this one. Certain operations are required from a data object depending on the object and the environment in which it is used. This is what this data abstraction support. Data is not treated simply as objects, but it is treated as objects with some predefined operations on them. Okay. The operations defined on a data object are the only operations that can be performed on those objects. So from outside an object, the internals of the objects are hidden and only the operations on the objects are visible. Data abstraction forms the basis for object-oriented design, which is that we will discuss in the next topic, object-oriented design. Currently, we are going to discuss only about function-oriented design. Next, the modularity. The real power of partitioning comes if a system is partitioned into modules so that modules are solvable and modifiable separately. It will be better if the modules are also separately compilable. Okay. That would add maintenance, that would add efficiency to the system design. A system, when do you call a system is modular? A system is considered modular if it consists of discrete components so that each component can be implemented separately and a change in one component has minimal impact on the other components. Then only you call that modular system. Again, I tell you, the system is modular if it consists of discrete components so that each component can be implemented separately and a change to one component has minimal impact on other components. So this modularity is clearly a desirable property in a system. This modularity helps in system debugging. Isolating the system problem to a component is easier if the system is modular. A software system cannot be made modular by simply dividing it into a set of modules. For modularity, each module needs to support a well-defined abstraction and have a clear interface through which it can interact with other modules. So modularity is where the abstraction and the partitioning come together. So for easily understandable and maintainable systems, modularity is clearly the basic objective for easy and understandable systems. Okay. The next principle is top down and bottom up strategies. Top down and bottom up strategies. A system consists of components, uh, and each component may have components of their own. So you can claim that the system is a hierarchy of components. The highest level component correspond to the total system. To design such a hierarchy, there are two possible approaches, namely top-down approach and bottom-up approach. In the top-down approach, we start from the highest level component of the hierarchy and proceed through the lower levels. But in the bottom-up approach, we start from the lowest level component of the hierarchy and proceed progressively to higher levels, to the top level component. The top level design start by identifying the major components of the system, decomposing them into lower components, and iterating until the desired level of design is achieved. So this top level, top down design method result in some kind of stepwise refinement, I can claim. Okay. The bottom-up design approach start with designing the most basic and primitive components and proceed to higher level components that use these lower level components. So this bottom-up method work with layers of abstraction. Starting from the very bottom, operations that provide a layer of abstraction are implemented. The operations of this layer are then used to implement more powerful operations and still a higher level of abstraction until the stage is reached where the operations supported by the layer are those desired by the system. Okay. A top-down approach is suitable only if the specification of the systems are clearly known and the system development is from the scratch. However, if a system is to be built from an existing system, a bottom-up approach is more suitable as it starts from some existing components. The rest of the things we will discuss in the coming class. Okay.